am very excited to have Lori Wallace with us today. Lori is a sustainability consultant with extensive business transformation and program management experience. Her focus is on strategy that deliver positive impact for business. Will you just start with maybe explaining environmental, social, governance, and sustainability practice? And oftentimes we hear it as ESG.
Sustainability and ESG are terms that we're hearing quite a bit now in the news, and businesses, small and medium enterprises, might be struggling with what's the difference between sustainability and ESG. Sustainability is about meeting the needs of our present without compromising the ability of our future generations to meet their needs. Specifically, it's really about how a company conducts business without harming people or the planet. You'll hear a term of the triple bottom line, which is really companies focusing on people, planet, and profit. You really can have all three. Historically, we have not really considered the earth as part of our capital or resource set, and that it is considered free and unlimited. We are now starting to have businesses really factor in the environmental impact of their business. And so that's where you get the full breadth of sustainability. ESG refers to the environment, social impact, and governance. And it's really a subset of sustainability. And it's really about the measurement components of sustainability. There are global frameworks that are now in place, which for public companies are becoming more important in that they disclose what their environmental and social impact are, and that they have science based targets that can measure and report on an annual basis to investment communities and to the business community and stakeholders at large.
Will you also tell us, Lori, about your background and what led you into this path from a career perspective?
Thank you for that question. It goes back to where I really started my career, which was in socioeconomic development and public policy many years ago, before sustainability and ESG were really practice areas. I have spent much of my career in the digital and business transformation areas with technology innovation. And in the last 5 or 6 years or so, I was really noting the need for focus on social and environmental impact and how technology could help support this area because technology is an enabler. And as I started to look more into the UN Sustainability Development Goals and companies that was working for at the time who really had purpose driven statements, it led me to pursue the area of business sustainability and really factoring that into the design of products in the information space to make sure that we were providing accessible products for all of our customers.
That's amazing, Lori. And then, as far as just going back to the sustainability practice, I mean, you gave us a really good understanding of why we should be focusing on it. Why is this important to companies today?
It's very important to companies today because it's a way for future business proofing to include natural resources and community and social aspects into your business equation. First, in reducing environmental impact and aligning with global markets to set net zero impact and consider regenerative practices. It establishes business resiliency for both environmental and socioeconomic crises that we have been witnessing occurring over the years. And it enables your business operations to be more efficient and agile by including sustainability in design. Additionally, it attracts employees and increases retention. More and more, you have, particularly in the millennials, employees looking to work for companies that have purpose, that have purpose driven decisions as they move about their business operations, and that they are cognizant and aware and are doing something to reduce their environmental impact. And customers are demanding more for sustainable products and solutions and are actually paying more and will pay more for their products. They want to know that the companies that they are purchasing from are reducing their impact, are aware of sustainable business practices so that their future generations and their children will be able to live in a sustainable planet as well. So it's really about people, planet, and profit.
Yeah. So, from a social responsibility sense, I completely get there. Are there also regulations and laws that are driving some of this change as well?
Yes, it is very important to businesses now, particularly public companies, as we are having more regulations coming out of Europe. In California, that are requiring for companies to disclose materiality and external materiality specific to their environmental impact. Now, what do I mean by materiality? What is the business impact that your company has on the environment in terms of greenhouse gases, waste, water usage, land usage? What are the external materialities specific to that impact? So, if you are a public company now, particularly operating in Europe, or if you have businesses that are multinational and are in Europe, the European community is now requiring reporting standards be met. There's a differentiation between scope 1, 2, and 3 along the supply chain, and this relates to the greenhouse gas protocols. And companies are now being required by regulatory bodies to report on that and disclose this on an annual basis. They want to see improvement. They want to see ESG as a focus within a company. So it's becoming more and more a requirement to do business, not only purpose driven in terms of what we should do on an ethical basis.
And I'm curious, what are some of maybe the tips for companies in ramping up their ESG and sustainability program if they are on that journey today?
One of the first steps is an impact assessment, understanding the full life cycle of your product. What is the impact of doing business? This requires a paradigm shift. We have been doing business over the last century in a very linear economic fashion in which it's take, make, and waste, and not really considering what happens after you've extracted resources. You make them, what is the production cost, the pollution that might be required, and then what happens at the end of the life cycle of that product. So it requires really looking into a paradigm shift and really think from design to transportation, production. How does my product get to market? And then once my product is used or consumed, what next?
So, if you're in a service based industry, is that less relevant from a sustainability?
Actually, it is not. The service industry and even, the technology sector, you might think, well, it's software or it's professional services. Your flights, if you are a company that travels and has to travel to locations, those are your greenhouse gas emissions that would be reported as a cost of doing business. Your computers, do you leave them on? What is your digital environmental footprint? So it applies to all industries. So really what you need to do, you'll do an impact assessment. Then there are quite a few global frameworks. There's the UN Sustainability Development Goals, the UN Global Compact, which is for businesses to really align their human rights, fair labor practices, environment, and anti corruption. You commit to that with the UN Global Compact, looking at the greenhouse gas protocols. So there are a variety of frameworks that you can look at and align the purpose of your company. So in backing up just a bit, we do have an impact assessment, but what's really also important is to start with your company purpose and the values that you have with your company. And you align those with the sustainability development goals, and then create benchmark and science-based targets. Once you have that in place, you'll be able to develop policy and programs to support the direction and where you want to go. Critical to this is leadership suite buy-in, and sponsorship is very critical. And then there'll be middle management or change management, training required, so that the company is on board. They see the vision, they see the purpose.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think you probably touched on this next thought that I had, which is, are the consideration different if you're a smaller business versus a large corporation? Um, is it different? Because if you start from impact analysis, but would the actions you take vary quite a bit depending on maybe the size and scope of the organization?
Yes, that's very important that you bring that distinction to the small and medium enterprises. Um, they actually still have a sustainability requirement because they're very much a part of the supply chain, either upstream or downstream from larger companies. So if you are a supplier to a larger company, the larger company sees you as a scope 3 emissions. So in order to continue that supplier relationship, you'll start to see more of the companies training the larger companies' requirements to be a supplier. So for a smaller medium enterprise to start now, you're really in a great place in terms of getting ahead of the curve, and start to future proof your company, having your purpose. What is your impact sustainably in terms of social, economic, environmental impact, based on a lot of these requirements might be coming from your supply chain upstream. So it's very important to be prepared, because it will set you as a competitive advantage that you are already meeting sustainability development goals. It's already been integrated into your business practices and operations, so that it makes you a more competitive vendor in the supply chain.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you made me think about my time managing a large amount of contracts for American Airlines, and we would look for specific vendors that hit certain things that aligned with our company goals. So that's a great reminder for people out there on how that sort of bleeds into other network and how you do business. So thank you for that. Are there or is there an example of a company who is doing this very well and maybe is a bit more forward thinking in the space?
Well, there are two companies definitely that are very forward thinking in this space that come to mind. One is Patagonia. Patagonia this year really created a new business model in making the earth their primary stakeholder, in terms of aligning with their company purpose. They are in business to save their home planet. It's been a private company, so not as beholden to share price and stockholders, which is important. And instead of extracting value from nature and transforming it into wealth for their investors, they have decided to protect the source of all wealth and invest back in the earth. Um, One of their really good programs, in terms of a demonstration of the circular economy, is their reuse and repair program. 85% of clothing ends up in landfills or gets incinerated. So, with Patagonia's clothing, they have a program called the Worn and Wear program. And basically, they want to eliminate waste and pollution. They want to continue to circulate their products as long as possible. So, extending the life of clothing by 9 months can reduce their carbon emissions. And so it also increases loyalty amongst their customers, who then can turn in their clothing. And if it meets the criteria, they get a credit and they're able to, purchase newer clothing. So that is an excellent example of really thinking through the full life cycle of your product, applying a circularity view and lens, and keeping your product in circulation as long as possible. Another front runner in the larger companies would be Unilever. And I like to refer to Unilever because Paul Pullman, who was CEO from 2009 to 2019, was definitely a front runner in moving forward with the concept of net positive. And he has a book out. He was co author with Andrew for anyone in business who's moving into this space. He provides a really comprehensive review of the program and how, with stakeholder buy in, going back to the company purpose, starting long term thinking, that the Unilever sustainability program was able to really increase profits while reducing impact in communities across the globe.
You talked about regulation earlier. That's obviously driving an effort as well. There are also purpose-driven companies who are saying this is just part of what we believe in and this is what we'll do. I hope more and more companies are doing that and lending to kind of the purpose-driven mindset that helps bring together, everything that you talked about. I do think that some companies probably are lagging behind still in trying to get to that space. I imagine, and I see it all the time, which is sometimes these long-term goals are in conflict with the, hey, we're looking for customer count, we're looking for this, we're looking for this number to grow, and you got different OKRs or KPIs in the process. How long of transformation is this process when people start to implement it? How long does it, I guess, the change management component of it, let's say there's leadership buy-in, but how long does it take to sort of really transform in this process and space?
It will vary, and what I like to say is, in any business transformation, when you have the leadership buy-in, when you've done an effective job of articulating your purpose and a policy statement, any large transformational change or introduction that I've experienced generally is 18 months to get the groundwork and to
Mhm.
really start to see progress. And that might be aggressive. It depends on the company. But when you have the buy in, and I've done this in other digital transformations in terms of setting up a new organization, the benchmarking and the KPIs and being able to show progress or lack thereof, because that is equally important, then allows the prioritization to take place. You need time for education and awareness and to constantly influence throughout the organization, both up and down. What does it mean to me as an employee? What does it mean to me as middle management? I have found that the companies that are moving forward more quickly is when those companies have, either in their C-suite or their upper management, have goals, incentives, KPIs tied to that. And when you design at the beginning, you design the sustainability practices in, and it becomes part of your process in nature, and is reinforced with incentives, then I believe companies move forward more quickly.
Lori, thank you so much. You touched on so many things, and I'm sure there are deeper dives that we could go to the frameworks, all of that stuff. So hopefully we can discover that and talk about that in another setting. You hit on a lot of things that I believe in, which is, when you are trying to transform or implement something so large, there's always a change management component. And that
Yes.
cannot be understated and under indexed in terms of bringing your employees, your people along so that they can help you deliver that success. So thank you so much again for being here with us. I appreciate your time, Lori.